It's August 1st, and that means the 2024 comprehensive team rankings have been finalized. The Rivals comprehensive team rankings include elements of the high school team rankings and the transfer team rankings. So it counts the 25 highest rated players, whether they're high school prospects or transfer prospects. You can find the full breakdown on rivals.com. But right now, I'm joined by Jason Suchomel of Orangebloods.com to break down Texas's number 5 class in the comprehensive team rankings. Jason, thanks so much for joining me here. I appreciate the time. And when you think about what Texas was able to do in the 2024 cycle, particularly with the transfer portal, what really struck you with how well they did at targeting some big time playmakers?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I think they really went heavy after the wide receiver position, which they needed to do. They lost a couple high NFL draft picks, so they went out and signed multiple receivers. And then interior defensive line was another area they wanted to reload at, and they did a good job there. Went out and signed three defensive tackles as well, and one where they wanted a good tight end to kind of supplement what they already have on campus, and they were able to go out and get Amari Niblack from Alabama there. So I feel like they did a pretty good job overall. Texas did in filling some of those gaps and some of those needs they had on the roster.
Sure. Well, they finished with the number 31 transfer portal class, but they only signed 10 guys. So they had an average star rating per commit of 3.6, which is fantastic. Two guys that I wanted to ask you specifically about were Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden, two big time receivers that Texas needed to reload at the position. You kind of alluded to that, but we've heard really good things about Isaiah Bond and how he's gelled within this offense and how he's done replacing out on AD Mitchell.
Yeah, and you saw how productive he was at Alabama. Now he comes here and he's playing with arguably, more of a high flying offense, if you will, with Quinn Ewers throwing the ball. So it's a deep receiver group at Texas right now. We're going to see over the next couple weeks how this kind of sorts itself out. But I do expect Isaiah Bond to maybe be receiver one. Now, Steve Sarkisian has said, hey, they're going to have more depth than they've had in previous years. They're going to play more receivers. But I got a feeling Isaiah Bond might end up being one of the top one or two guys on that roster. Matthew Golden's a guy comes in very productive from Houston. He can also help in special teams. He's going to figure in there too. It's just going to matter of, hey, who's going to get the most balls thrown his way? Who's going to have the most, the biggest numbers? It may change from week to week. It's hard to predict right now. And a guy that he didn't factor in the rankings, I know, because he was just outside the top 25, Silas Bolden out of Oregon State. He just showed up late, so he wasn't here in the spring season. But these couple months he's been on campus, he's really made an impression. They're really excited about him, his playmaking ability, his explosiveness as well. So, Steve Sarkisian's always pretty creative offensively. He'll find a way to get all these guys involved, but they've got some good young receivers on talent. Then you factor in these transfer receivers, and it's a pretty deep receiving core for Texas all of a sudden.
For sure, for sure. Well, look, they're looking to put up a lot of points this year. Really think that they're going to be an excellent class. What do you think about Trey Moore?
Yeah, Trey Moore, another guy they're very excited about. I feel like maybe he was a little underrated. He's coming out of UT San Antonio, so not necessarily playing on the biggest of stages, but he had some big schools after him. He's come in and he's gone through spring football. He's a guy quietly. Again, now we're just starting fall camp. We'll see how things kind of shape up over the next few weeks. But he's a guy quietly that they think can give them a real burst off the edge, give them an ability to pressure the passer in the backfield. You got a guy like him. You've got Colin Simmons, who's part of the incoming freshman group that obviously contributed to that lofty ranking for Texas. That might be a pretty good 1-2 punch. I'm telling you, I got a sneaky suspicion by the end of the season, if we look back on these transfer portal rankings, I think Trey Moore may be a guy that was one of the bigger impact players Texas signs.
Well, as I choke on my words there, you got a Trey Moore, though, somebody we're really high on, number 29 in the transfer rankings. Really excited about him. And you provided a nice segue there, too. Texas obviously did a fantastic job on the high school trail, finishing number 3 in the high school rankings. Certainly Colin Simmons is the crown jewel of that class, one of 3 5-stars in the Texas high school class, along with Brandon Baker at offensive tackle and a late flip in Xavier Filsaime out of Texas as well. So when you look at this Texas high school class from top to bottom, who has really struck you as making an early impact so far now that they're on campus? Or a lot of them,
Colin Simmons would be one, as you kind of expect, right? He's a 5-star. I think at one point Rivals, we did have him ranked number 1 in the country at one point. So you expect him to come in and be an early impact player. He has been. The other guy, I tell you, the guy that's really stepped up, and he was borderline 5-star for most of the year, is true freshman wide receiver Ryan Wingo. Now, we just talked about the depth Texas has. We talked about the transfer portal guys they brought in. So it's a lot of competition. They've got some good young talent, like a guy like John Tay Cook, who was a 5-star previously. But I tell you, Ryan Wingo, based on what he did in the spring and in the offseason, he's a guy I'm expecting to be very involved in this offense. I think he's going to be a productive player for Texas from week 1. They're really, really excited about him. At SEC Media Days, Steve Sarkisian kind of singled him out, and he just said, hey, we think he's a good player. And for Sark to give a true freshman who's really only gone through a handful of spring practices that kind of individual recognition, that's pretty telling. But he'd had a great spring season. I think he's better even than people expected him to be. This is a guy that was very highly ranked. But yeah, Ryan Wingo would certainly be a name to watch. I think you'll be hearing his name come up quite a bit in the fall.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, that high-flying offense, the ball has to go to somebody on the outside, right? And, Quinn Ewers isn't making a Heisman push for nothing, right? So, we're looking at Texas's final comprehensive class in the Rivals comprehensive team rankings, finishing number 5 overall, number 3 in the high school rankings, and number 31 in the transfer portal rankings, a total of 3 5-stars, 24 stars, and 8 3-stars. That's Jason Suchomel from Orangebloods.com. Thank you very much for your time, Jason. Please make sure to give him a follow at Orangebloods, and make sure you follow him on Twitter as well. I'm Rankings Director and Transfer Portal Analyst Adam Friedman. Please remember to subscribe to the Rivals.com YouTube channel and follow all of the Rivals social media accounts. And of course, you can find all of our content on Rivals.com. Thanks again, Jason.
You bet. Thank you.